Emma deserves this chance, Alice. She's got real talent, and this film could be her big break. My mother's voice echoed through our living room as I stood there, clutching my MIT acceptance letter. I was 18, and my world was crumbling around me. But that's my college fund, I said quietly, still trying to process what they just told me. I earned that scholarship money. I worked every summer since I was 14 to add to it. My father stepped forward, his expression a mix of dismissal and impatience. Your sister has a real shot at making it in Hollywood. This short film could open doors for her. Besides, you're good at science. You can get student loans or find another scholarship. I looked at Emma, my 19-year-old sister, sprawled on the couch with her trademark smirk. She dropped out of film school after one semester, claiming it was too restrictive for her creative vision. Now she needed $50,000 to fund her short film, and apparently my education was the price. I start at MIT in 3 months, I said, my voice trembling. That money was supposed to cover my tuition and living expenses. I can't just. Oh, stop being so dramatic, Emma interrupted, rolling her eyes. You'll figure it out. You always do. Besides, I'm a famous director. I'll pay you back double. My mother nodded enthusiastically. See? Emma understands the value of family support. This is her moment, Alice. Don't be selfish. Selfish. The word hit me like a physical blow. I'd spent my entire high school career taking advanced classes, working part-time at the local observatory, and building my college fund. I'd earned a partial scholarship to MIT, but it wasn't enough to cover everything. The money my parents had just given away was the difference between attending my dream school and having to give up everything I'd worked for. What about my moment? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What about my dreams? My father waved his hand dismissively. You've always been the practical one, sweetheart. Emma needs this chance now. Her film concept is revolutionary. A psychological thriller about a girl who discovers she can communicate with plants. I almost laughed at the irony. Emma's revolutionary concept sounded like a bad B-movie, but here they were, throwing away my future for it. The money's already been transferred, my mother added, as if that settled everything. Emma's crew is booked, and filming starts next month. This is happening, Alice. Be supportive. I looked around at my family, my father avoiding my eyes, my mother beaming at Emma, and my sister already scrolling through her phone, probably planning how to spend my money. Something inside me shifted, a fundamental change in how I saw them. Okay, I said quietly, surprising them all. I understand. Really? Emma looked up, suspicious of my sudden acceptance. No more guilt trips. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. No more guilt trips. I hope your film is everything you dream it will be. That night, I sat in my room surrounded by astronomy posters and science fair medals. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Harrison, my mentor at the observatory. Need to talk to you about an opportunity. Can you come by tomorrow? The next morning, I arrived at the observatory early. Dr. Harrison was waiting in her office, a stack of papers on her desk. NASA's undergraduate research program, she said without preamble, pushing the papers toward me. Full scholarship, stipend, and guaranteed internship position. The catch? You'll need to defer MIT for a year and work here while completing their intensive training program. I stared at the papers, my heart racing. Why are you showing me this? She smiled knowingly. Because I heard about what happened with your college fund, and because you're the most promising young scientist I've ever mentored. This program is highly competitive, but I've already recommended you. All you need to do is say yes. My hands trembled as I picked up the application. My parents. This isn't about them. Dr. Harrison cut in firmly. This is about your future, Alice. Sometimes the longest way around is the shortest way home. I thought about my family, probably at home right now, helping Emma plan her film. They hadn't even asked how I would manage without my college fund. When's the deadline? I asked, already reaching for a pen. Tomorrow. I've been holding onto this for a week, waiting for the right moment. I spent the next 6 hours filling out the application, my determination growing with each page. This wasn't the path I'd planned, but maybe it was the path I needed. When I got home that evening, Emma was hosting a pre-production meeting in our living room. 20-somethings in black turtlenecks were scattered around, discussing camera angles and lighting concepts. Oh, Alice. Emma called out. Perfect timing. We need someone to handle the craft services during filming. You're good at organizing things, right? I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and felt nothing but pity. Sorry, I'll be busy. NASA stuff, you know. She laughed along with several of her crew members. NASA? Right? Don't be ridiculous, Alice. You're not going anywhere. I didn't bother responding. They'd find out soon enough. A week later, when the acceptance letter from NASA arrived, I packed my bags and left without saying goodbye. My parents were too busy helping Emma location scout to notice I was gone until dinner time. By then, I was already on a plane to Houston, my future stretching out before me like the endless Texas sky. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting ahead. 10 years can change everything. I stood in NASA's Mission Control Center, watching as our latest Mars rover transmission came through. My team huddled around monitors, analyzing data from the revolutionary soil sampling system I designed, the system that was about to change our understanding of potential life on Mars. Dr. Alice Chen, my assistant, called out, tablet in hand. Your family's been trying to reach you. They're rather insistent. Of course they were. The press release had gone out this morning, announcing me as the lead scientist for NASA's upcoming Mars colonization initiative. My name and face were splashed across every major news network. I hadn't spoken to my family in years, not since Emma's film had premiered to disastrous reviews. The local paper had called it Amateur Hour with Plants. She'd blown through my entire college fund in 3 weeks of filming, only to produce something that looked like it was shot on a flip phone. Put them through to my office, I said, already knowing what was coming. My mother's voice filled the room before I could even sit down. Alice, why didn't you tell us? We had to hear about your Mars project from Mrs. Davidson at the grocery store. Hello, Mom, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. I've been busy. Too busy to tell your family you're leading NASA's biggest mission. Emma's been trying to contact you. She has this wonderful idea for a documentary about your work. Of course she did. I could already imagine it. Emma trying to capitalize on my success, just like she capitalized on my college fund. The mission details are classified, I said, scanning through the latest data reports. And all media coverage has to go through official NASA channels. But we're family, my mother protested. Surely you can pull some strings. Emma's been struggling since, well, you know, her film career never quite took off. This could be her big break. I thought about those early days at NASA, living on ramen noodles in a tiny Houston apartment, working double shifts while completing my degree through their program. No one had offered to pull strings for me then. The premiere event for the mission announcement is next month, I said, deliberately changing the subject. Very exclusive. Heads of state, leading scientists, major media figures. Oh, my mother's voice brightened immediately. Well, of course we'll be there. Emma can network, and your father and I can finally see what you've been up to all these years. I'll have my assistant send you the details, I replied, ending the call before she could respond. Later that day, my colleague Tom stopped by my office. Your sister's film is making the rounds on social media again, he said, trying to hide his amusement. Someone found out you're related and started sharing clips. I pulled up the video, allowing myself a small smile. There was Emma, dramatically whispering to a potted fern about her deepest secrets. The special effects made it look like she filmed it on a calculator. Hard to believe that's what they chose over MIT, Tom said, shaking his head. He'd been there from the beginning, my first friend in the NASA program. He knew the whole story. They thought they were betting on the winning horse, I replied, turning back to my work. They just backed the wrong race. The weeks leading up to the premiere event were a blur of preparation. We were announcing not just the mission, but the groundbreaking technology that would make it possible. My soil sampling system had evolved into something far more significant, a method of terraforming that could potentially make Mars habitable. The night of the event, I stood backstage at the Kennedy Space Center, adjusting my presentation notes. Through the curtain, I could see my family in the front row, my parents looking uncomfortable in their formal wear, Emma clutching her camera like a lifeline. Ready? Tom asked, appearing beside me in his NASA uniform. Almost, I said, pulling up a specific slide on my tablet. Just made a few last-minute adjustments. The presentation went exactly as planned. I walked the audience through our discoveries, our innovations, the future we were building. With each revelation, I could see my family's expressions shift from casual interest to dawning realization. Then came the final announcement. Our Mars colonization initiative will be documented extensively, I said, my voice carrying through the packed auditorium. We've partnered with National Geographic for exclusive coverage, with acclaimed director James Cameron overseeing the project. I heard Emma's sharp intake of breath, saw her hand shoot up during the key and a session. Yes, I acknowledged her, as if she were any other audience member. As your sister, she started, standing up. I think I should point out that I have unique insights into your journey. My documentary could offer a more personal perspective. Thank you for your interest, I cut in smoothly. However, as mentioned, all media partnerships have been finalized. NASA has strict protocols about mission documentation. The look on Emma's face brought me back to that day 10 years ago, when she laughed at my NASA dreams while spending my college fund. The difference was, this time I was the one making the decisions. After the presentation, during the reception, my parents cornered me by the champagne table. That was impressive, my father said, looking somewhat shell-shocked. We had no idea you were doing all this. You never asked, I replied simply, sipping my champagne. Too busy helping Emma with her various projects, I assume. About that, my mother jumped in. Your sister's really grown as a filmmaker. If you just looked at some of her recent work. Mom, I interrupted gently. I'm about to lead humanity's first real step toward Mars colonization. I don't have time to look at anyone's indie films. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, I saw them truly understand what they dismissed all those years ago. What they traded away for Emma's 3-week film shoot. I should get back to my team, I said, spotting Tom signaling me from across the room. Enjoy the rest of the event. The catering is excellent. I made sure of it. As I walked away, I heard Emma's voice behind me. She's just showing off. Anyone could do what she's doing with those kinds of resources. I smiled to myself, thinking of the long nights, the endless studies, the years of dedication that had brought me here. No, not anyone could do what I was doing. That's why I was doing it. Some dreams are worth more than college funds. Some successes are sweeter because you had to fight for them. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's proving yourself right. The morning after the premiere event, my inbox was flooded with messages. Most were from colleagues and media outlets, but one caught my eye. A lengthy email from Emma, sent at 3 a.m. You're just trying to humiliate me, she wrote. You've always been jealous of my creative talent. Just because you're some big shot at NASA now doesn't mean you're better than me. Mom and Dad see through your act. I archived the email without responding and turned my attention to the mission preparations. We were 6 months from launch and every detail needed to be perfect. Your sister's been calling the public relations office, Tom informed me during our morning briefing. She's telling them she's making an unauthorized documentary about you called My Sister, the Mars Girl. Claims it's a deeply personal look at the real you. I couldn't help but laugh. Let me guess, she's already started filming. Got kicked out of 3 NASA facilities yesterday for trying to sneak in with a camera crew. The irony wasn't lost on me. 10 years ago, she dismissed my dreams as ridiculous. Now she was desperately trying to attach herself to them. Later that week, my parents showed up unannounced at my office. Security called up, and I decided to face them rather than have them escorted out. Alice, my mother began, clutching her designer purse like a shield. We need to talk about Emma. There's nothing to talk about, I replied, gesturing for them to sit. The mission's media coverage is handled by professionals. She's your sister. My father exploded. She needs this opportunity. Do you know she's been living in our basement since her last film project failed? She's depressed, barely eating. I looked at them both, these people who had once casually dismissed my future. And what about when I needed an opportunity? When I needed my college fund? That was different, my mother protested weakly. You thought Emma's dream was worth more than mine, I finished. You were wrong. I pulled up a file on my computer and turned the screen toward them. It showed Emma's current social media posts. She was calling herself an insider documentary filmmaker and selling pre-orders for her unauthorized NASA documentary. She's committing fraud, I said quietly. Using NASA's name and logo without authorization is a federal offense. I've been protecting her by having security simply remove her from the premises, but if she continues... My parents paled. For the first time, they seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. We'll talk to her, my father promised. Make her understand. Good, I nodded, because my next call would have been to NASA's legal department. After they left, I sat in my office, looking at the Mars projection maps on my wall. A notification popped up on my phone. Emma had finally taken down her fraudulent social media posts. That evening, as I was leaving work, I found Emma waiting by my car. "You won," she said, her voice bitter. "Are you happy now?" I placed my briefcase in the trunk, taking my time before responding. "This isn't about winning, Emma. It never was." "Then what is it about? Revenge? Making us all feel bad about the college fund?" "No," I said, turning to face her. "It's about the fact that I'm about to help establish humanity's first Mars colony. It's about scientific discovery and pushing the boundaries of human achievement. Not everything is about you." She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I thought if I could document your story, people would finally see my talent." "Your talent isn't the issue, Emma. It's your belief that you deserve success without putting in the work. That other people's achievements exist to advance your career." For the first time in our lives, I saw something like understanding dawn in her eyes. "How did you do it?" she asked quietly. "After we took your college fund, how did you manage all this?" I leaned against my car, looking up at the darkening sky where Mars would soon be visible. "I worked harder than I've ever worked in my life. I took the longest road possible because it was the only road left, and somewhere along that road, I stopped trying to prove anything to anyone but myself." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "I've been awful to you," she finally said. "Yes, you have. Can I start over? Not with the documentary or anything, just as your sister." I studied her face, seeing for the first time in years the girl who used to read me bedtime stories before our parents' favoritism tore us apart. "You can start by actually watching the Mars mission press conferences," I said. "Learn about what we're doing. If you're genuinely interested, I'll answer your questions. But no cameras, no documentaries, no trying to use my work to advance your career." She nodded, wiping away tears. "I like that." 6 months later, I stood in mission control, watching as our first colonization equipment landed on Mars. Emma sat in the public viewing area with our parents, actually paying attention, actually asking intelligent questions about the mission. She'd spent the intervening months reading everything she could about Mars colonization. Not to make a film, but to understand what her sister had dedicated her life to. My parents had changed too. The night before the landing, they'd finally apologized, really apologized, for taking my college fund. They'd admitted they'd been wrong, that they failed me as parents. We were so focused on supporting the child we thought needed us more. My mother had said that we completely abandoned the one who deserved our support most. As the landing confirmation came through, the room erupted in cheers. I felt tears in my eyes as 10 years of work culminated in this moment. Later, during the celebration, Emma approached me with a small package. "I found this while cleaning out my old film equipment," she said, handing it to me. Inside was a USB drive. "What is it?" I asked. "The original footage from that stupid plant movie. I thought maybe we could watch it together and laugh about how ridiculous I was, make fun of my terrible special effects." I smiled, really smiled, at my sister for the first time in years. "I'd like that." Sometimes success isn't just about proving people wrong. Sometimes it's about giving them the chance to realize they were wrong on their own. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about finding your way back to the people you lost along the way. As we stood there, watching Mars data stream in from millions of miles away, I realized that some journeys take you further than you ever imagined. Not just to other planets, but back to the things that matter most.